Welcome, everyone, to CX Day 2021. I'm Gabe Smith, CCXP, and I'm the Content Manager and Associate Director for the Customer Experience Professionals Association, or CXPA. I am thrilled to be with you today and to be joined by some CX professionals throughout Europe, and they're going to be sharing their perspectives on some of the critical issues that are facing CX professionals today. And this panel is part of CXPA's celebration today of the global diversity of the CX community. And it's one of 10 regional conversations that we're hosting today on social media, joining Africa, Asia, Brazil, Canada, Latin America, the Caribbean, the Middle East, Oceania, the UK, and the US. And so a little bit later today on CXPA's LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube channels, we're also going to be revealing the winners of our 2021 CX Impact Awards. And you're not going to want to miss that. You're also not going to want to miss conversations on the future of the CCXP credential, a little bit of breaking news there, as well as we welcome some special guests to discuss the outcomes from CXPA's recent strategic planning sessions, as we're going to be discussing exactly how we're moving the discipline of CX forward worldwide. So you can check out cxday.org to get a glimpse of the full calendar of events. But without further ado, I'm excited to welcome today's panelists.
So good morning, everyone. Good morning, Europe. Happy CX Day. I'm Spiros Milonas. I'm based in Athens, Greece. Big fan of CX and big fan of actually helping companies embracing and navigating change. So happy CX Day, everyone.
Good morning, everybody. Gelukkig CX-dag. I'm Kathy van der Laar. I'm CCXP from the Netherlands, also one of the board members, and very happy to be here today. I'm also director of Early Bridge, a company here in the Netherlands that works with other companies to be more customer focused.
Ladies and gentlemen, buongiorno, guten Morgen, guten Tag. It's really a great day. Today is CX Day. Let's score together a great shot within this day for our customer. From the CX goalkeeper, have a nice day.
Happy CX Day, everyone. I know it sounds like I'm talking to you from America, but I'm actually based in Stockholm, Sweden. I am treasurer of the board of CXPA, and I am the chief customer officer at Ericsson, and I am so excited to be able to celebrate with you today.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Olga Guseva. I am a managing partner of Integria Consult and the local CXPA lead Russia. So have a good morning and happy CX Day. Enjoy it.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Jeff Sheehan in Dublin, Ireland. Wishing you a terrific CX Day. I am thrilled to be part of a global customer experience management community of professionals and practitioners. And I hope everyone enjoys the free offerings that are available today by way of CX Day.
Well, happy CX Day, everyone. It is so great to look at my screen and see this amazing group of CX professionals who are doing fantastic work throughout Europe. CX Day is this day of celebration. You know, I think as CX professionals, we can get caught up in everything that we have yet to accomplish, every process that we haven't yet improved, the customer-centric culture whose transformation we have not quite gotten there just yet, the governance model that we're still tweaking and trying to work out and trying to make sure is aligned so that everyone's on the same page in terms of our customer-centric vision, that we can forget to celebrate. But today is a chance for us to do that. So the first question that I have for each of you is, what is a CX accomplishment that you are proud of over the past year? So Kathy, I want to start with you on this one.
Thank you. I think when I look back over the last year, one of the things I'm most proud of is what we've been doing, the work that we've been doing in the board to really clarify our value to our members and to really make sure we're all on the same page in how we want to do that. And that's given me a lot of satisfaction in being able to work with other, what I think are brilliant people on the board and those advising us to take those steps. So when I look back, that gives me a good feeling. Also looking forward to next year.
That's great, Kathy. How about you, Gregorio? CX accomplishment that you're proud of over the past year?
Thank you, Gabe. I think I would like to mention two things. One, it's about our outstanding CX community. I see the community is genuinely growing, and I really like this sharing this discussion with all these CX professionals in our community. From a business point of view, we introduced a customer experience management in our company, and now we are doing it in a professional way. And I think this is key to focus on customer needs and creating outstanding experiences.
Yeah, fantastic. I think community is at the heart of everything that we do, and it's at the heart of the CX Day celebration as well. Olga, over to you. Something you're proud of over the past year.
Okay, I was struggling really to select what was the biggest accomplishment, and I think that actually the biggest thing we have done this year is that we have recorded a course on customer experience for United Nations that will be available for all female and not only female entrepreneurs across the world. That's a free and short 1-hour course, and it's going to be spread globally. And what I'm especially proud of is that principles that were set up by CXPA are presented in this course. And for me, that's a sign that CX is getting so important and so powerful that such organizations as United Nations are happy to spread the word across the world. Yeah, and
That's amazing. What a fantastic accomplishment. You know, I think one of the themes over the last year is sort of we've seen the rise of CX in government, and I think that that's just a fantastic trend to continue to watch. Jeff, over to you.
I'm going to steal two mentions as my friend Gregorio did. The first is I want to also echo the growth of the CX community. I have enjoyed an incredible amount of support and interaction. In fact, Gregorio and I think other people on this call, I've connected with, and we've interacted and chatted and been on podcasts. So I think just the expansion and the mutual support from the global CX community is really, really encouraging. And I enjoyed a lot of it this year. But I would say personally and professionally, my biggest accomplishment with CX was publishing my book. Publishing a book titled, you see it behind me, Customer Experience Management Field Manual, where I was really trying to contribute something to the CX community in terms of having a useful desktop reference to help sort of navigate some of the functions and duties and jobs that are involved with being a customer experience leader. So, very pleased with finishing that, and it's been pretty well received. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Congratulations, Jeff. That's a great accomplishment. No small feat at all. Spiros, what's something you're celebrating in Athens this CX Day?
Well, I would say two things. Looking back the last year, I think we've all struggled with COVID and the uncertainty and the disruption it created. So I'm very proud. Two things. I'm going to go with Gregorio as well, following his example. So the first has to do with kind of our internal thing. We're a boutique consulting agency, and we've managed actually to help our customers and adjust and manage all this uncertainty and support their customers and adapt and change their operations. And we've managed to do so by increasing our CSATs, our NPS scores, and all the feedback we've been listening. So that was very, very important. And the second thing is very much, I think, around the support that my friends and colleagues mentioned, not just with the team, but the whole CX community. And I think looking back, it's something we can all be proud of. It's sometimes when it rains, it's not about being wet, it's about how you dance in the rain. And I think we've managed humanity, teams, to a big extent to support each other. And I think that's something we should all be proud of.
Absolutely, Spiros. And, the theme this CX Day is CX is a team sport. And I think, when we hear that, we tend to think about our immediate teams, the people that we work with on a daily basis to affect the outcomes that we want. But really, to your point, to Gregorio, to everyone who's mentioned this, the CX community is a really amazing and impactful and inspiring team. So I think we have a very, very broad definition of team in this community. That is great. Would love to hear in the comments any CX accomplishment that you, the viewer, are celebrating this CX Day, because we want to celebrate with you. So make sure you get those in the comments. Tabitha, what are you celebrating this CX Day?
I am celebrating my team, as is often the case when you step into a new CX leader role. You're tasked with understanding not just what your customers need, but what kind of team you need in order to fulfill those customer needs. And so I'm most proud of my team, the team that we brought on board, and all of the people that we've been helping to grow and learn and become CX professionals this past year. They are my big celebration.
And speaking of CX successes, we want to give a huge thanks to our CX Day sponsors, each of whom makes this panel and all that we're doing on CX Day really possible. This year, we've created online homes for each sponsor. These pages include some great resources, downloadable content, and even some really nice giveaways. Please take a moment to visit these pages and, of course, to thank these organizations for their great support of CX, CX Day, and CXPA. I think on CX Day, we get a chance to celebrate our accomplishments. We get a chance to celebrate our teams, but we also get a chance to celebrate organizations that are doing CX really well. One of the things I found really inspiring is I've had several of these conversations with professionals in regions around the globe is that I'm hearing about companies outside of North America that are doing a great job in putting the customer at the center of everything that they do. So this is a chance for each of you to sort of brag about companies in your region that you look at and you think, wow, these folks are really getting it right. So Tabitha, I'd like to stay with you on this one. What are some companies in your area that are particularly CX focused?
Well, certainly I have found that with Ericsson, we work with telco operators all across the globe. And so we get to see many times our customers really, what are they doing to really grow and improve their customer experience? And so I love that ability to see that and know that it's not just that we're working on that for our customers, but they're working on that for their customers, and we get to be a part of that.
That's great, Tabitha. Gregorio, over to you. What are some companies in Switzerland or in the surrounding area that you admire?
Instead of taking all these big examples, it's Amazon, we have also in Switzerland, IKEA is also in Switzerland. I would like to point out one example related to really a small business next to where I'm living. During COVID time, we tried to buy stuff from Switzerland, and I went to a farm next to us, and it's a butcher. And we wanted to buy meat. We went there with my son, a small child, 4 years old, and now we are always going there. And you know why? Because the lady that was selling the meat asked my son, do you want a small piece of meat to try? And every time that we are going there, as my son is getting something to eat. And during last winter, we had quite a lot of snow, and my son had no sled. And she said, oh, I still have one sled of my children. I can give it to you. Do you want it? And my son was extremely happy. And now you can think about where we are always going to buy meat. And I think this is a great example of a really micro shop focusing on customer, trying to understand customer, and also trying to keep the customer.
Yeah. That's fantastic. CX Day isn't just about celebrating the large organizations, multinational organizations. It's a chance to celebrate and acknowledge, the small businesses that are customer focused as well. So love that example, Gregorio. Olga.
Yes, I would say our special pride are the companies, Russian companies, who have entered the international and European scene with their quality of customer experience. This year, we have a number of Russian companies participating in various international CX awards, including European CX awards and international CX awards. And such names as Sberbank, Sber Private, Alfa Bank, Gazprom Bank, and Severstal. These are the names of the Russian companies who made it to the finals. And for us, it's probably one of the best signs that the local level of customer experience and customer centricity is coming up in line with the highest international standards.
That's excellent, Olga. So inspiring to hear. Spiros, what are some companies in Greece that you want to call out today?
I've been thinking actually when you asked the question, because it's always a matter, like Gregorio said, do you go with the big established ones or the small ones? Because we have all experienced and we hear stories about great customer experience, and because it's at the end of the day, it's all about stories, right? And at the same time, it has to do with the consistency that these stories are being created and shared by the team and the brand. So I'm also thinking of a very small e-shop that sells dog and cat food and things like that, that they add a touch of personalization in every delivery. They add the name of the dog or the cat. They make sure that they call back to see if the cat or the dog enjoyed the food. They make sure they deliver on time, even if couriers have a challenging time. And I'm also thinking of a big retailer called Plesio that managed to actually take a lot of its of market share from competitors, because actually it ensured that its agents and people were available through several touch points when others were struggling to cope with the demand. They managed to have their own transportation means again when couriers had a hard time. So they had proactively prepared for something that they couldn't have imagined, but they were quite agile enough to make sure that to put the customer first in their operations. And this paid back. So I'm sure there are lots of stories.
Yeah, I think agility is a common theme that we've been hearing about this year, and it's so great to hear that example. And I want to hear also about what some of the hot issues are related to customers that customers are dealing with, that customer experience professionals are dealing with in your region, because certainly we hear that we've all been dealing with a collective, challenge in humanity over the past year, but the way that manifests itself and trickles down to our work in CX can manifest itself a little bit differently. So would love to hear from you, Kathy, around what some of those hot issues are where you are. What are customers dealing with? What are CX professionals dealing with in the Netherlands?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, because one of the things that somebody else mentioned it, with COVID and Corona here, there was a sort of chasm that was exposed, because all of a sudden everything had to be done digital, including working remotely, and that created a huge challenge in terms of also the workload that was done online. So a lot of the telecom companies here in the Netherlands had a huge challenge with the service aspect of that and the quality of the people who they needed to be able to help customers who couldn't just help themselves with self-service. So that's one of the things that I think we're still dealing with here, because we just literally opened completely back up last Saturday. But seeing really what the demand is from customers on our people, and how can we make sure that they're equipped to be able to deal with those things in a blended customer experience world, where it's not just about digital or just about personal contact, and doing that in a really smart way supported with data.
Yeah, great points, Kathy. And I'm curious, Jeff, if you're seeing that same sort of chasm that Kathy talked about in Ireland, what are you seeing as some of the pressing issues facing customers and CX pros there?
Yeah, I think one of the issues is with vulnerable customers. This leap to digital that quarantines, made everyone respond to, had left some customers behind. There are lots of folks who do not do banking, for example, on their mobile phone or on their on their computer. They rely on walking into a local branch and interacting, whether it's deposits or whatever it might be. And so there was a certain segment of customer that was sort of vulnerable and not able to go digital as many were. And so it was really interesting in Ireland here. And by the way, I've joined an organization that does an annual state of customer experience in Ireland, and it's a comprehensive report on who's doing great work, and this whole digital and human experience thing is addressed quite profoundly this year, because a lot of folks did digital very well, and some folks left the sort of human element a little bit behind. But there was that sort of vulnerable customer segment that wasn't quite ready for digital. And so they had to be dealt with, whether that was in banking or groceries or transportation, so that they were able to be served, but not with this full digital sort of channel focus that the quarantines required. So there were some really great examples of compassionate service where they carved out teams to just focus on that segment of customer, whether it's do banking or whatever it might have been, whatever the service was. And I find those examples particularly interesting, and I'm very proud to see the sort of rally, not just around technology, but around making sure that every customer is looked after. There's quite a few examples of that here in Ireland. I'm reluctant to just name names, only because that report is coming out later in October, and it'll all be publicly available from there.
Yeah, I think you made a great point about the level of compassion that we've started to see that customers value, and that organizations that are customer centric are really making that concerted effort to demonstrate that. Tabitha, what's your perspective on this? What are you seeing from your perspective as a CX leader in your organization?
I think that, from a Swedish perspective, there is some great focus on B2C customer experience, and you see more and more positions like that growing in Sweden. What you don't see is that many people who are really developing the focus on B2B customer experience and building up skills and jobs and roles on that. And so it's been an interesting trend to see much more of that consumer focus, but not really the recognition that at the heart of human-centered design, we're all people, whether we're buying from a business for a business or buying from a business for our own personal needs. So I find that kind of an interesting trend, and I'm really wondering when we're going to hit that pivot point in Sweden.
Excellent point, Tabitha. I know there's been a tremendous amount of interest on CXPA.org. We do have a B2B CX community that you can go in, sign up for a free account, join the B2B CX community. But absolutely, I think that you make a fantastic point there. And Olga, I want to come to you on this question as well. What are you seeing in Russia? What are customers experiencing? How are CX pros responding to customer needs and unique challenges?
Well, what I would say is probably during this period, all customers became more vulnerable than before. And we see it in different segments. And what I would say that customers in Russia, but most probably in other countries as well, are lacking actually three things. First, money, because they have less disposable income than before, and they need to be more frugal in their spend. Then they lack time. They have less time than they had before. Unfortunately, they work more because of the online work and everything, and they just have less free time to devote to favorite brands, products, or activities. And the third thing they are lacking is attention. Attention of the companies, attention of brands they love, especially during this transition period. And customers were reporting that they were expecting more attention from the brands they love. Talking about CX professionals, I would say that the biggest challenge for CX professionals now is, first of all, to be heard by the whole team. First of all, by the management, so that management sees CX not just a nice to have exercise, but as a business necessity, as a commercial necessity, as a survival necessity. And I would say the biggest challenge for Russian CX professionals, and again, most probably for professionals across the globe, is to become from just being an expert to really an influential CX leader that can build together the team, and that's the way this is the topic of today's conversation, build together the team that will move the company forward to a better CX.
Absolutely. And hold that thought, because we're going to talk a little bit more about what it takes to build an effective CX team here in a second. But Spiros, would like to get your perspective on this as well. What are some issues that customers are dealing with and that CX pros are dealing with in Greece?
So I think we're at the time where we're experiencing a huge technological advancement. You have consumers that, as a result of that, they're very demanding. They want their needs to be anticipated, and basically they long for connections that are a bit deeper. And it's very difficult to find that because there is an expectations gap in what you can find actually in the market. So going to the company side and the brands, basically I think the struggle is to manage and build those internal capacities to the team that go beyond processes, tools, IT, AI, and so on and so forth, and manage to make your teams cultivate empathy within the teams and make them work with empathy and increasing and supporting their emotional intelligence and being able to feel more comfortable being uncomfortable with all this discomfort and change, because change is the only constant, and building agility. So I think it's those kind of softer elements that the companies are trying to build, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah, great point, Spiros. Gregorio, want to get your perspective here as well. What are customers and CX pros experiencing?
I think the key is the marriage between customer experience and employee experience. We spoke about a lot of customer experience and CX leaders thinking about our employees and thinking about working from home. We rushed in the business to bring our employees at home, and speaking in particular on contact center agents, men and women working from home, perhaps sitting at the lunch dinner table, taking calls, as Jeff said, with quite a lot of issues. And we rushed through these digitalizations. For customer looks a bit better, but for our employees, it's not always solved in a professional or in a perfect way. And therefore, I think it will be key to create a new working environment for our employees to take care of the customers. And I'm not speaking about the technology and all this stuff, because we have that, we can implement that. But I'm speaking also creating a customer-centric culture for all the employees working from home, spread around the European region. I think this will be key to create customer-centric cultures in a new remote working way of working.
Yeah. Great points. I'm struck by the fact that, everything that everyone's been saying about, kind of what issues CX pros are facing in the region. Olga alluded to it and touched on it, that to tackle these issues, you need a great CX team. And we know the theme for today is CX is a team sport. So I'm going to ask a question to each of you in turn, and that is, what makes a great CX team? We're trying to boil that down. So Gregorio, I want to stay with you on this one first. What makes a great CX team?
As the CX goalkeeper, taking the example of soccer teams, I think important, it's not about me, myself and I, but it's about the team. I think it's important that we work as a team and we try to create a trust within our team. I don't need to ask the colleagues next to me, did you perform the task? As we are playing the customer experience game, I am sure he's doing his job, I can do my job, and we can focus on the successful customer outcome. And I think this is one important ingredient.
Trust. We've got to have trust to have an effective team. Spiros, what's your perspective on what makes a great team?
I think it's very much about being able to connect with the team, and the question I think we need to ask ourselves is what truly connects a team. Not what we say it connects, but what it does connect. Is it money and bonuses? Is it fun? Is it values? Is it purpose? I think purpose is among the strongest ones, so I would focus there. Purpose and values, being able to connect, to truly connect the team and drive the team forward.
Yeah, and I'm struck by the fact that it gets to, unlocking what motivates your team members as well? Is it, is it purpose? Is it vision? What is going to motivate them? I think that's a really great point. Olga, what's your perspective on what makes a great team? I know this is something you alluded to earlier.
Well, a great team means a strong team. And who is the strongest team in a company, in any company? This is the C-suite level team. The chief executive officer, chief marketing officer, chief information officer, chief operations officer, and chief customer officer. If those people work as a team, then the company can be sure that they can really make big change and conduct successful CX transformation. And this is the way to ensure the whole company is transforming and everyone is involved.
Strong leadership at the top of your team, at the top of your organization. Great point. And, you mentioned Chief Customer Officer. So Tabitha, it's only natural. I'll go to you next. What is your perspective on this? What makes a great CX team?
I think that it is a combination of passion, empathy, curiosity, and commitment to change. And that's what you ask for, not just in your team, but most especially, how can they inspire that and hopefully see that in the culture of all of the leaders and stakeholders around them? Because it is definitely a team sport for CX, without a doubt. And if you can't get people aligned to commit to change, then we're all going to fail together, which is always the saddest part. So that's why that passion and empathy and curiosity are so important to carrying forward that commitment to change.
We succeed or we fail as a team. Absolutely. So, Jeff, we've covered trust. We've covered, defining the thing that motivates and connects your team. Olga talked about strength, and Tabitha talked about passion, empathy, curiosity. What's your perspective on this? What are some other ingredients for a strong and successful CX team?
Yeah, Gabe, you alluded to it, or actually mentioned it earlier in a comment. My opinion is everyone in CX is a leader. And you may not, have positional authority or some title, but your job is a leadership role because you're a change agent. And that's the other thing. It's important to understand you're an agent of change when you work in a customer experience role of any kind at any level. And thirdly, I would add, you are the customer advocate within the organization. So while businesses operate in departments and divisions and business units, they have their own agendas and their own incentives and their own focus. Your job as a customer experience professional is to be a change agent across the organization in a sort of more horizontal way and bring that voice of the customer, reminding people that it's not a journey that we are delivering, it's a process from the business. And how do we bring the customer into that and really tune up that process to make it more customer friendly? Or how are we evaluating outcomes? How are we defining value? How are we defining customer, and making sure that there is this acceptance of leadership as a role that you have by virtue of working in CX, that there's a customer advocacy responsibility, and that we really are all just change agents trying to be mindful of what we do to our customers and what our customers want us to do for them.
Yeah, really great points, Jeff. And Kathy, want to conclude this question and come to you for your perspective as a CX leader. What makes a great team?
I think I'm going to pick up where Jeff left off, because one of the things he was talking about is really a shared language. And I believe in shared ambition, shared focus, really clarity around what you're trying to do. But also what Tabitha also said, really commitment to making it happen ultimately. And if we're able to get things aligned within our teams and we know what we're doing, then it makes us all better and we can perform better as a team.
Yeah. And I'll stay with you. Really great perspective kind of on the next part of this question, which is how do we reach that state? How do you build a team like that? How do you motivate that team? Kind of the key question, if we know what success looks like, how do we get there?
Yeah, and that's the hard part, of course, is how do we get there? And I think that's something I would go back to than what Olga said. It's also about understanding how we as CX align with the strategy in the broader sense. Because if we're not contributing to that, I think we all need to know how we contribute so that we can feel proud of what we're doing, but that we also are really clear about the impact that we're creating, because ultimately that's going to be how we're looked at in terms of whether we're successful or not. So we have to be really clear that it's about doing the right thing for the customer, but there's also a business result that needs to be clear. And to be able to do that, we need to be able to link strategy to results and show visible impact. And I think that makes us all proud and better if we're able to recruit and motivate people around those sorts of things. So we're always working on trying to get autonomous leaders in the team so that we can push the responsibility down as far as possible in the organization to where it ultimately will make the most impact.
Yeah, and I love what you said about, understanding how what you're doing contributes to the end goal. I mean, I think about sports, and there's certainly in any sport there are sort of glamorous positions and there are less glamorous positions, but to make the team work, everyone, regardless of what that role is, has to understand how those contributions are moving the team forward.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I would add to that, Gabe, is it's interesting what you say, because you can have people that are playing the game that are on the front lines, and at the same time, there are people who are waiting to take the stage or to take the field. And these can be your real game changers if given the opportunity.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Olga, I want to come to you. How do you build this team? How do you achieve this level of success? And how do you motivate these folks?
Well, in my view, in order to engage all those people within the organization, you need to be able to speak their language. Sometimes we as CX professionals talk a lot about empathy, about human to human, but sometimes we just see blank faces of the executives, say from finance, from sales, from commercial teams, because they don't see the real value of customer experience. So what we as CX professionals shall do is really speak their language and explain them using numbers, using return on investment, the language they're used to, how important and valuable it is. We know it's not only about numbers. We know it's about people, but definitely this value shall be well understood, well across the organization. And I would say it's really important that we know the numbers and we communicate the numbers, in addition to all the emotional connections we are bringing to that.
Yeah, great points, Olga. Jeff, over to you. What are your thoughts on building this high-performing CX team?
Yeah, I agree that an alignment around purpose and mission is crucial. So, for example, if you're in an organization whose business model is focusing on new customers, but your CX program is focusing on customer loyalty, you've got some dissonance there that is going to affect morale and productivity and how effective you are. So it's really important to have the CX team focusing on what the organization is really designed or intended to accomplish. But there's good old-fashioned recognition. I think one of the simplest ways to improve motivation and enhance the meaningfulness of work is to share the stories from every level of the organization, whether it's the front line in a store or a branch or a contact center. And there's always these terrific stories of how people did wonderful work helping a customer, and that customer is either expressed that in a letter or a note or in some way to the organization. Sharing that across the organization is really impactful. It's really cool that when customers tell you by name someone really changed their day and really helped them get their whatever they wanted to do accomplished. So I think communicating that in a regular cadence, a newsletter, some kind of recognition program, does a lot for the CX program in terms of creating awareness of what it is and what it does, but also it incorporates the connection between affecting customers' lives and what the organization actually provides the marketplace. It's not high tech, but it's very effective.
Yeah, I wrote, clarity of purpose and storytelling as effective motivators to really motivate the CX team members. Great points, Jeff. And CX goalkeeper, Gregorio. I know that CX is a team sport. You were on board this concept before it even became this theme for CX Day. So I know you have strong feelings about this. How do you build and motivate high-performing CX team?
I think my colleagues already explained quite a lot. To point out again, one important topic from my point of view, it's really explaining and understanding why we are doing that, focusing on the successful customer outcome. If we are speaking about sports, the successful customer outcome is to score more goals than the other team. And how you can achieve that, it's the how, and it's the secondary point. Important is why, and how comes a bit later. Then taking up of what is Jeff said, also this storytelling, getting feedback and giving feedback. It's really important. Think about a stadium full of people, full of fans that are saying, yeah, ooh. Then you understand also if you are going in the right direction, in the right way. And I think one important point that I would like really to mention is linking all these topics, empathy, NPS, and to business results, to speak the language of our stakeholders, like the CFO. For the CFO, important is the return on investment. Then let's translate what we are saying into this return on investment and all these financial KPIs that are relevant to him or to her. And for our marketing colleagues, it's about retention, it's about acquisition. Then let's translate our result in their languages and to share also these achievements, because then if you are successful, all the people want to jump on your train or on your success story.
Fantastic, Gregorio. Love that. You will know by the reaction of the crowd whether you are on the right track or not. Fantastic. So, final question for the group. And, I love this about CX Day, that we can think not only about, what we've accomplished, what our organizations have accomplished, and celebrate that, but we can also take a step back to think about our own careers and how we can advance our careers within our own organizations, or perhaps outside of our own organizations, in terms of determining that next step. And so I want to go around the horn here to each member of the group. And Spiros, I will start with you on this. What's one piece of career advice that you would give to a CX professional in your region?
I think it's all about maximizing value for your customers, your company, your partners. And in order to do that, I think my colleagues have already shared the importance of speaking your customers or partners' language. I would just use another kind of advice here, which has to do with patience. So I don't know if it will help in the long term or short term to progress your career, but I think acknowledging everything that comes up when you're working on a CX transformation, no matter how big or small, and standing with it with curiosity rather than judgment, acknowledging the pace of the system and the business to transform, and standing with curiosity in terms of, why is this happening here? What sort of loyalty is there here to shift or change or shake? How can I create edge and tension to the system respectfully without standing with judgment? So I think I've said a bit too much, but I think it all goes around standing with patience and respect for anything or anyone you have in front of you. And I think that will help to maximize value.
Tabitha?
I would say that, many of you are focused on learning great CX skills, whether that's insights or experience design or journey mapping. I would recommend that you add change management and objection handling like a salesperson, because those are the things that really help you get your fantastic ideas and insights and capabilities over the goal line and really ensure that you get to work on what you want to work on for your customers and have the value and impact that you want.
Olga?
I will add a little bit to what Tabitha has said. And in my way, the way to develop as a CX professional is really go beyond traditional thinking, beyond your traditional job responsibilities, beyond industry limits, and learn from other industries as well, beyond geographical boundaries, and learn from the experience of other countries and other regions. And always go beyond, always be creative, and look for new ways. And that's basically what true CX is about.
Jeff?
I would add to everything that's been said the idea that you should listen to understand, and listening as a skill, not simply waiting for your turn to talk, but really trying to understand what the objections are, where the resistance to change is coming from, and you really, whether you're trying to overcome an objection or trying to get past resistance, listening to understand is really going to be key as a skill. Not only in CX, but in any role, whether it's business or in the rest of your life. I think that is something that is indeed a skill to be learned and honed and refined over a lifetime. But I find that as a change agent, you really do need to understand why things are the way they are and what's going on with people as the people that you need to work with to affect the change that CX is responsible for. So very simply, I would add, listen to understand.
Gregorio?
To all what my colleagues are saying and said during this presentation, what I would like to add is, let's think about customer taking purchase decision based on strangers' feedbacks. All these ratings that we see on all these web pages. I think the future is in communities, and let's take a community like the CXPA, where we are all like-minded professionals that want to achieve something. I think it's important in future to work to be in such communities and to engage in such communities. In future, it's not important that I know everything, but being part of such communities, having the exchanges, because I know Jeff is expert on this topic, you, Gabe, are expert in that topic, and having this exchange. I think this is the future.
Kathy?
For me, I think the tip I would like to share is invest time in building your network. Build your network internally with your business colleagues, your business stakeholders, and build your network externally around your professional organization along the lines of the CXPA. That will pay back in spades.
Jeff, Kathy, Olga, Tabitha, Spiros, and the CX goalkeeper, Gregorio, thank you for sharing your insights and experiences and your leadership in advancing CX across Europe. And if you want to get involved with CXPA events and meet other great CX professionals throughout the region, like the ones that you saw here today, you can visit us at cxpa.org/Europe, where you can create a guest account and stay up to date on happenings in the region. And if you're interested in getting even more involved in the CX community, if you're interested in opening up your ability to access professional mentoring, opening up your ability to access discounted pricing on the CCXP exam, and getting a chance to shape the future of CX through professional work group involvement, there's really never been a better time to do it. Now through the end of October, you can take 20% off the cost of a new professional membership at cxpa.org using promo code CXDay 2021. So we hope that you'll join us and help us chart the future of CX in Europe and really globally, and really advancing this discipline as we always do and as we do best together. Happy CX Day, everyone. Thanks for joining, and take care.